ITV.com today.
Now with a roundup of the stories making the headlines this Wednesday, it's the ITV Lunchtime News.
Good afternoon, I'm Faye Barker. Strong winds, heavy rain and snow is sweeping across the UK today, one of the busiest travel days of the festive season. The Met Office says Storm Garrett could cause treacherous conditions on the roads. Meanwhile, British Airways has cancelled some short-haul flights. And we're also being warned of disruption on the railways and possible power cuts too. Well, our North of England reporter Kelly Foran is in the Peak District. So Kelly, how are conditions there?
Well, Faye, even being here over the last couple of hours, the wind has really started to pick up now. We're in Chapel on the Frith, where almost 600 homes have had power cuts over the last day. Most of them are back on now, but Electricity North West have told me that they're expecting things to get much worse over the next 12 hours or so. They told me that Storm Garrett is the fourth major weather incidents that they've had to deal with this month alone. Because of that, they've got extra engineers on standby. They've been cutting down trees that are near power lines, but they say the strength of these winds could still cause debris to bring down those lines. Now, the weather is expected to get much worse from around 6 o'clock this evening. The Met Office have issued multiple weather warnings. There's a warning for wind in the south, in parts of Wales, and here in the northwest, where wind gusts could reach up to 65 miles per hour. There are rain warnings for much of the country too, and Scotland has a weather warning for rain and snow. Now, it is, of course, a busy time of the year. Lots of us back to work, lots of people travelling home after Christmas. British Airways, as you mentioned, have cancelled 18 flights in and out of Heathrow. There have already been some road closures today. These pictures were taken earlier in Cumbria, and there's disruption to many rail services too. And the RNLI are urging people to keep clear of the coast. The rain and wind, as I say, due to pick up from 6 p.m. this evening, when it's expected to increase as the night goes on.
OK, Kelly Foran in the Peak District, thank you. To the Israel-Gaza conflict now, and Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry says at least 240 people have been killed in 24 hours as Israel's bombardment of the territory continues. That takes the total number of Palestinians killed since the 7th of October to more than 21,000, with a further 55,000 injured. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has called the war a grave crime against his people. Palestinians sheltering from airstrikes in central Gaza have been told to evacuate as Israel appears to be preparing to expand its ground offensive. Israel's army chief said the conflict with Hamas would continue for many more months. The price of parking at hospitals in England has risen by 50% in a year, according to new figures. Data uncovered by the Liberal Democrats showed visitors and patients paid £146 million for parking last year, which is up from £96 million a year earlier and triple the amount from 2 years ago. The jump is down to charges being reintroduced in March last year after being scrapped during the pandemic. The Treasury has announced next year's spring budget will take place on the 6th of March, slightly earlier than usual. In what will possibly be the last fiscal event before an expected general election, Jeremy Hunt is thought to be planning to announce tax cuts. The tax burden is currently the highest on record. Now, the number of people heading to the high street for Boxing Day sales was up by 4% yesterday compared to a year ago. Stores in central London were the biggest draw for shoppers this year, with footfall up almost 11%. Anila Dali has the details.
Boxing Day has typically been a day to bag a bargain, and new data shows footfall is up 4% on last year across all UK retail destinations.
Very busy, actually. Yeah, it looked there's a good buzz around London. It was really busy.
And that doesn't put you off. You're back again today.
Yeah, we're just going to spend the last bit of our budget then probably, and then we're going to head back to Wales.
With the bustling streets and big sale signs, it seems more and more people are trying to take advantage to see what's in store. With figures from MRI software showing footfall in central London up 10.6% on last year and up 1.6% compared to before the COVID pandemic in 2019.
What brings you from Amsterdam to Oxford Street?
The sale, but we don't know for sure because yesterday was the big sale. So we're hoping to find a few nice items.
The sales are okay, but they're not like half price, which a lot of stuff is. I think most of our stuff is like 20-30% off, which is better than full price.
The rise is largely attributed to people heading back to the high street.
A lot of high streets have actually invested in festive events and attractions, and that's going to be a big footfall driver, and we've noticed that in the weeks leading up to Christmas as well. A lot of the market towns and historic towns have witnessed week-on-week uplifts.
They do say a rise in footfall on Boxing Day doesn't necessarily mean a rise in sales on the day.
We are in the cost of living crisis, so a lot of people would have benefited from the Black Friday sales. A lot of people would have spent and got their bargains back then. But I think the cost of living crisis, maybe people are just out for the day.
But with a year-on-year rise in people heading to the shops, it's an encouraging sign for retailers and the high street. Anila Dami, ITV News.
Now, you'll soon be able to buy a pint of wine in shops for the first time since 1973. Following a post-Brexit review, pint bottles will be available at some point next year. A pint is 568 millilitres, so slightly smaller than the standard bottle of wine at 750 ml. And finally, what does a bag of onions, toilet roll, anti-wrinkle cream and a fly zapper have in common? Well, according to Consumer Group Which, they are among the worst Christmas gifts people say they've ever received. Of more than 2,000 people asked, a quarter received gifts that were unwanted or unsuitable. Just under a third of those surveyed either gave the gifts away or planned to, and 1 in 7 wanted to sell them online. Meanwhile, 3% returned the gift to the person who gave it to them. That's a brave person. The Evening News is here at 6:45 from me for now and the rest of the team. Bye-bye.
It's a cold and wet outlook with some heavy downpours throughout the day. Heinz Big Soup sponsors ITV National Weather.